Hello everybody, welcome to this special edition of The World This Week, this time from Jerusalem. We're here at the Jerusalem Press Club for the International Conference on Freedom of the Press. We are pleased to have with us Professor Susan Herman, President of the ACLU.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to start talking with you about privacy. Post-Snowden affair, NSA debacle, have we totally lost the war on privacy?
I don't think we've totally lost our privacy, and I think we can't really surrender if this is a war on our privacy, because to me, privacy isn't just about people keeping secrets. It's really, I think, very much connected with democracy. I think it's connected with freedom of speech and freedom of association and freedom of religion. So one thing that I think we've seen happening in the United States after 9/11, when the government started all these massive surveillance programs, particularly since Edward Snowden's revelations, a lot of people in the United States have become very concerned. And people say to me, well, why should I care what the government knows about me if I'm not doing anything wrong? I think among the reasons to care is that there's been a tremendous chilling effect of people's willingness to say controversial things or to affiliate themselves with controversial organizations or even to practice a religion if they feel like by doing so they might attract the government's attention and end up being arrested or investigated or put on a no-fly list. So I think that it is at our peril that we give up on privacy.
Snowden, is he a hero or a villain in your mind?
People ask me that all the time, and I think part of that is our human instinct to like stories. And what I keep saying is, can we talk about the message instead of the messenger? Because I think it is a shame that it took Edward Snowden, really sacrificing himself to tell the American people what our government was doing without our knowledge. It shouldn't have come to that. And I think part of our mindset, we called, you talked about a war on privacy. Well, in America, they talk about the, quote, war on terror. And the idea that we've been at war and therefore have to surrender our liberties and surrender everything, including our ability to know what the government is doing, has been really very dangerous. And people were going along with that, sort of assuming that it was all benefits and no costs. The government was keeping us safe and there was no cost. And so, I think that we have to thank Mr. Snowden for really invigorating a debate in our country about whether we were just assuming too much.
Which is still going on, and the NSA supposedly trying to limit their actions vis-a-vis privacy. Are you impressed?
Well, I wish they were trying to do more. It's interesting that they're willing to go this far. So let me tell you a little story about the ACLU, its involvement in this, because right after Mr. Snowden's revelations, the first document that he released showed that the government had been requiring Verizon to turn over information about all their telephone customers. Now, it happens that the ACLU was a client of Verizon Business Services. So what the government was gathering was all the records of who was calling the ACLU and people who got calls from us.
They got you.
Well, but that's why we were very concerned, because the ACLU gets calls from people who are unpopular. But government employees who might want to become whistleblowers, students who think their principals are out to get them, police officers who think they've had unfair disciplinary hearings. And our concern was that if people know that the government is collecting all that information, will they still call? So we brought a lawsuit that we called ACLU versus Clapper. Mr. Clapper is the head of the NSA. And about, a week or two ago, we won it. And what happened was that the first Court of Appeals, Federal Court of Appeals in the United States to look at this issue, said that this whole program, the one that Mr. Snowden revealed, is not legal, that it was not authorized by the statute. So this week, Congress is having tremendous controversy and debate about what to do about that, because they know if they just renew the program as it was, there's a court that says it's not legal. It was just not authorized by the statute. So I think it's really been a powerful debate, but I think it shows in the United States that we need our courts to really help.
With Google and Facebook and all this technology, it seems like it's taken for granted that privacy is like out the window. I mean, everything is out there to grab. Is that true? Well,
things are out there, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Everybody can know a lot about us, including the government. But I think that there's still a difference between what Google knows about you or Amazon as compared with the government. Because if Amazon wants to sell you a book, that's one thing, and they're very good at data mining to figure that out. But last time I looked, Google couldn't arrest you. or audit your tax
Wait,
returns.
no, you can never know.
Well, you never know. But that's why, to me, the big discussion here, are we going to be able to retain our privacy? Not in the way we used to, but I think what we can do is to put some chains on the government's retention and use of information about us. And that's an American tradition.
And in the private sector, can you also do that?
In the private sector, I think it's a lot harder. We've been struggling, as many countries have, with data privacy protection laws. And I think our laws are still pretty weak. I think there are ways in which we should really be paying more attention to how information about us is used and shared. And one thing that's very interesting in the United States is that the companies, the telecommunications companies and internet companies, at first they believed it was patriotic to just help the government by turning over everyone's information. And another thing that has changed since Mr. Snowden's revelations is there's just been a sea change in the attitude of the companies, because they realize that their customers do care. So they're falling all over each other now to say, oh, we're protecting your privacy. So I think that helps.
We'll wait and see. Professor Susan Urman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
We are joined now by Georges Malvo, who's a French journalist for Le Figaro newspaper from Paris. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Georges, you're a hero in the eyes of journalists like ourselves. You risked your life covering wars, and please start by telling me your personal ordeal in Iraq, where you were held captive for over 4 months. What were the circumstances? By whom? Why?
We were kidnapped by the rebels group called the Islamic Army of Iraq. It was a Salafist group composed mainly as Daesh now of direction Salafism leadership, and the know-how was coming from ex-intelligence guy from the Saddam's army, security army of Saddam, etc. And so, thanks God, we are not detained by Al-Qaeda in Iraq and this monster of Zarqawi who killed all of his detainees. So it was tough, but then France in 2003 didn't participate to the war. So we played this non-participation, saying that we were against the war, and we were against the Americans' way of occupying Iraq. And it was well received by our kidnappers. We're a group well organized, cruels. They killed an Italian journalist during his detention, same time than us. They killed Iraqis, collaborators. They said we have 4 enemies, etc. But they were open to negotiations. They negotiated with the French government, the Americans, perhaps with Qatar, and so we managed to be released after 4 months.
Why did they capture journalists? Because it's so easy?
It was easy, though. It was by random they captured us, but journalists, it's a good fish, because you got a lot of publicity. Mm-hmm. And because in France there was a huge campaign in the media, in the streets, demonstrations, and we could see from behind their masks that they were jubilating. They told us, you are more famous than your president, you are blah, blah, blah.
So let me ask you, as a journalist, does it worth the risk? What are the benefits if you go there and you are being captured and then it's played out against your own government?
It's a good question, my dear friend.
Yeah.
I think it's nothing worth than living, to be alive. So there's no report worth risking life. But you never know, and when you are in Iraq in 2003-4, you are there to report. The situation was extremely interesting. It was a new page completely in the Iraq history, in the history of the Middle East. The situation got deteriorated in 2004, and abductions has been always a way of getting money.
And look what's happening today. It's not changing.
And it has not changed. It's getting even worse. I was in Iraq a month and a half ago, and Iraq is a country which will never, in the coming 20 years, recover. It has been destroyed by the Americans in 2003. It has been now, it's a country where the Sunni and the Shia hate each other, and there's no way to get them reconciled. The Shia, which have been oppressed during Saddam's time, don't want to live and to get rid of their
So
power.
is there any chance that the West, maybe through journalists like yourself, will ever understand what's going on with ISIS, for example? What's the state of mind there?
Yeah, of course we can understand. By going there, we can understand. But now the situation is extremely dangerous because, as you know, there are black boxes, places where we can't go in Iraq or in Syria, and it's very difficult to report, of course. But by going then, you can see kind of the situation and getting. But now with Daesh and ISIS, it's a terrible monster, and there's no way to get in negotiations with them. So it's really a very sad page.
Georges, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are joined now by Sol. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to this beautiful roof with this beautiful view of Jerusalem.
Thanks for inviting me.
So you are a reporter for Charlie Hebdo,
Yes.
now famous French magazine. We have the latest issue here. Yet another caricature on the front page. This time you make fun of François Hollande, the French
François
president.
Hollande.
Hollande, make you laugh, or whatever. And you have a story there inside this magazine. Tell me, how is life in Charlie Hebdo right now?
Life is hard, as you can of course imagine. It has been hard for 4 months for all the team in the way that some of us live with a very heavy, super heavy protection, and we are being hosted by another, media, Libération. So I guess, it's a bit heavy for them as well, because we are here with all those journalists coming and all those psychiatrists coming and all those researchers coming, because everyone wants to get an opinion, an idea, a report about what happened on the 7th of January. So it's hard
Charlie Hebdo
conditions.
has become the story itself instead of being just a newspaper.
Yeah, which is a pity actually, because I would like people to focus on the content. The most incredible thing that we made in all those 4 months is just right there, It's about the text. We have 3 injured people still in the hospital, and 2 of them are like writing every week from the hospital in this newspaper. So it would be nice that people actually just turn the pages of Charlie Hebdo rather than, speaking about it in weird ways.
4 or 5 months after what happened, what's the lesson for French media, for freedom of the press in France?
I think the lesson, and I hope that I won't say that, in 1 or 2 years, but the lesson is quite disappointing actually, because when you read your let's say friends from the US, from Great Britain, who were so, pitiless toward us after what happened on the 7th of January, refusing to show the cover of the Prophet, and today in France some spectacles cannot be done, some events inviting Charlie Hebdo are cancelled because everyone or is scared. This is the main excuse. They're scared about the security, which I don't really believe in. And they're scared as well to be related to this reduction.
So after we saw all these leaders coming to France and marching and all of that, maybe the terrorists have won.
No.
No?
No, they haven't won. I'm still here today,
Yeah, but you see media are afraid to put and more caricatures and to go into religious issues.
Yeah, but we should think about, it's not only about institutional medias and about what the New York Times or the Washington Post are writing about Charlie Hebdo. It's also about Masr Lyoum, and those, which is an Egyptian, newspaper, who showed all the caricatures, all the cartoons of the Prophet the day after the attacks. Those are the people who I would like to feel compassion and respect about, and I would like to stop, complaining always about those who find us, blasphematory, racist, whatsoever, and I would like, to think about all those who take risks to actually support us.
I understand that in major newsrooms, newspapers and outlets in France now there's protection, there's military guards.
Yeah.
Do you think it can happen again?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it can happen again in the way that, again, the Kouachi brothers, they were French. They could have been my neighbors. They were very regular French guys. So we all know, that we have some cells of radicalism in France, and that we need to focus on those guys and what they're doing and what happened to them, how they come brainwashed in front of our eyes, and we haven't seen that. So yeah, of course it could happen again.
So I thank you very much and good luck with Charlie Hebdo.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And this has been our special edition of The World This Week, this time from Jerusalem. See you here next Sunday.